Peter, thank you so much. The last time that you were with us, it was December 26th. That was the start of the Southwest meltdown. This reminds us a lot of about that in that the antiquated system of Southwest. And now we're dealing with the very same thing with the FAA. Is that really the cause behind this?
It is. I mean, we're dealing with a system that's 30 years too old. You know, you heard the notice to air missions. That wasn't its original name. It goes back more than 30 years. It was originally called, before it was politically incorrect to do so, Notice to Airmen. And they haven't really updated the computer software and the programs to run it. There's no redundancy. There's no backup system. This is a problem the FAA has known about for 30 years. In fact, the FAA every year talks about next gen, how they're going to institute next gen technology into their air traffic control system and this management system as well. They've been talking about it for 3 decades. The irony is the next generation system they're talking about, they've been talking about it for 2 generations. So right now, this is a wake-up call for Congress to allocate the funds to do it, but to do it in a way that the FAA doesn't wait 7 years to install the equipment, because if they did that, by the time they installed that equipment would be outdated.
Well, we know Congress last year passed this bipartisan infrastructure bill, which gives some money to airports. There's nothing more bipartisan than flying. There's Democrats and Republicans on those planes that are all getting delayed today. Is there a real movement to do this? And if so, how much money would it take and how long would it take to actually fix all this?
Listen, if you want to get our divided Congress together, just cancel their flights. And that's exactly what just happened. So, yeah, there is movement to do this. There's going to be money allocated to do it, but it's the procurement and approval process of that equipment that takes so long, given the way that the federal government behaves, that it's almost self-defeating. It's going to change. There'll be hearings on the Hill. We're going to see things change. It won't happen right away, because even if they had the money today to institute that equipment, we wouldn't see it for another year and a half.
Well, the last time that we saw this was 9/11, when all of those flights were grounded. Can we expect this to happen again? Because they're not going to update the system overnight.
Well, look, the ingredients are still there for this to happen again. The difference between today and 9/11 was 9/11 obviously was a terrorist attack in which they just didn't ground the departing flights. They closed the airspace. As you know, all incoming flights were diverted, either had to land immediately if they were in the air close to the United States, or if they were coming from overseas, ended up in Gander and Newfoundland. Today, they determined very quickly this was not a cyber attack. It was not an act of terrorism. So they only affected departing flights for about 3 hours until they could reboot. And the planes that were coming to the United States or that already in the air, they were allowed to land.
Wow. So frustrating that we're in this situation, one that seemingly was very preventable. They just didn't want to spend the money. The government, just like so many companies out there, too cheap, and ends up costing them more money down the road. Peter Greenberg, you are the best on this,
yes, you
and
are.
It is so great to have you along with us tonight.
Thank you, guys.